Hey guys, what's up? Today we're gonna take a look at the best JRPG developers, in my opinion, meaning these are my 10 favorite developing companies of JRPGs. I know what you're asking, what took me so long to come up with the top 10 to speak about my favorite developers? Well, that's because it was a really hard video to do. It really took me a long while, an entire day to figure it out, to decide who were my favorite JRPG developers, and to make matters worse, the order to choose them, in which order to put them on this list. It was just so really hard because these 10 companies are great in developing JRPGs. And before we begin, I have sort of like an honorable mention to make, and that is Mr. Yoko Taro, who created the Nier games and also directed the Drakengard series. He's not a company, so I kind of wanted to include the guy, but he's just one guy and he's a freelance writer and director, so he doesn't really belong to a company, and this video is to talk about companies, so I couldn't exactly include him even though I'm a huge fan of that guy. Yoko Taro, consider him as my initial honorable mention. I say initial because there will be some more honorable mentions at the end of this video. Alright guys, let's begin! Number 10. As one of the most historically important video game companies that met its demise in the console market many years ago, we can't actually forget two of its major and beloved franchises, Phantasy Star and Valkyria Chronicles. Sure, some other people have helped them develop certain titles in the series, but mostly by people who worked directly for them, like Sonic Team for example. Some of the latest Valkyria titles have been assisted by Media Vision, the company who created the Wild Arms series. Sega employees have done most of the main designs of these two emblematic franchises. Turn-based RPGs, action RPGs, strategy RPGs, they've done everything! And if we add the fact that they also have developed other cult classic RPGs such as the Sakura Wars series, it only makes it more deservingly of being on the list. Let's not forget that they have published several other video games and a series of underrated classics that are still being played today. Number 9. Vanillaware. You guys already know I'm a huge fan of this company, however small it still is, with barely 15 years in the market, but with a veteran developer like George Kamitami at its helm. Everyone knows this excellent game, of course, a masterpiece originally released for the PS2, later remade for the PS3, PS Vita and PS4. A highly innovative and addictive 2D beat-em-up in the action RPG genre. This great classic opened the doors to the company into mainstream success, developing also yet another fantastic action RPG with similar style of course, called Dragon's Crown, which was also a major success. Other great titles with thousands of fans out there are Muramasa, Grand Knight's History, and Green Grimoire, although that's a real-time strategy tower defense game, but it's still a highly addictive and innovative title. In other words, these games have so much style and originality with many great influences on their design that I seriously think it's one of the best JRPG developers nowadays. Number 8. Namco Tales Studio. Originally known as Wolf Team, the name itself pretty much says it all. These were the developers of every single Tales of even after key members of the first one, Tales of Fantasia, left to create another company. After that, in 2003, they changed the name to Namco Tales Studio. In 2011, however, they merged with the publishers of the Tales of games, Bandai Namco, and have been credited as such from that point onward. As Wolf Team, they did develop other action RPGs, such as Arcus Odyssey for Genesis, but the only successful series they had created is still the Tales of franchise. So perhaps this place should be occupied by Bandai Namco itself? That could be true, considering the company's former names don't exist anymore. So maybe this huge legendary logo and some of its other big RPG series are the ones who occupy the spot. But as a fan of the Tales games, it was my job to remind gamers what were the names of developers before merging with Namco. Number 7. Career Soft. This one's yet another personal favorite, and it's a company that now works directly for Atlus, although not with that name anymore, with many of its members already merged into it. These guys created the Langrisser series within the strategy RPG genre, the Growlancer series with real-time strategy elements, and the Devil Survivor games, which are spin-offs from Atlus's own Shin Megami Tensei franchise. I'm a huge fan of Growlancer and Devil Survivor, so I couldn't leave these extremely creative people out of the list, especially for having developed some insanely original ideas into the RPG history. They are very underrated, and their name should come more often within talks of tactical RPGs. The Langrisser series doesn't stay behind, with the first game known here as Warsong, originally released for the Genesis. I'm so glad they're part of Atlus nowadays, but I just wanted to show you who they were before they merged. Careersoft, initially known as Team Career, is truly one of the best developers of strategy RPGs of all time. Number 6. Monolith Soft. With the success of the Xenoblade games, this company has already topped the charts with fame. Founded by the legendary creator of Xenogears, Tetsuya Takahashi, right after quitting Squaresoft. He went on to create a series within the same universe as Xenogears, which he now called Xenosaga for the PS2, with Namco as their publisher until 2007 when they officially became a part of Nintendo. The Xenosaga series marked a huge step for them into the RPG industry, allowing them to work on other cult classics and great titles such as Bats and Kaitos with the help of a small company called Tri-Crescendo. They were also the creators of the highly enjoyable and innovative Namco vs. Capcom for the PS2, which led the basis for the overly successful crossovers Project Cross Zone 1 and 2 for the Nintendo 3DS. Needless to say, their most popular franchise, Xenoblade Chronicles, has been the talk and love of many RP gamers out there, consecrating the company as one of the best RPG developers of the 21st century. Number 5. Triace. When Yoshiharu Gotanda left Wolf Team after helping in the development of Tales of Fantasia, he created his own company in 1995. Along with his associates, he brought to the world the Valkyrie Profile series, along with Star Ocean, Radiata Stories, Infinite Undiscovery, Resonance of Fate, Exist Archive, and many other RPGs. Again, it's a personal favorite. But who's to say the creators of Valkyrie Profile and Star Ocean aren't among the best developers in the JRPG history? These guys opened the basis for so many other RPG developers, and their unique, truthfully original mechanics, full of intricate but excellent technicalities, have been crucial to develop many other successful games. I kind of regret they stayed with Square Enix for a long time, until finally becoming a subsidiary of Nepro Japan, after being independent ever since their creation. Who knows what'll happen in the future with this company, but at least they already left us with a bunch of classic giants in the RPG history and many cult classic titles with strong following fan bases. Number 4. Intelligent Systems. Intelligent Systems, believe it or not, is a 32-year-old company that started back in 1986. No, they don't belong to Nintendo. They're independent and they're just affiliated with them. Of course, Nintendo has published all of their titles and holds the IP for one of my favorite RPG franchises of all time, Fire Emblem, which is, in my opinion, a pioneer in the strategy RPG genre, and has been since the release of the first title in the series in 1990. Truly one of the most symbolic series in the video game industry, highly popular nowadays and with a huge fan base. Let's not forget they also developed the Paper Mario games, starting off with that classic for the Nintendo 64 back in the year 2000, and also the Advance Wars games. They've helped in developing other major titles such as the first 2 Metroid games and some of the WarioWare series. However, I'm only a big fan of Fire Emblem, and even if the recent entries have been somewhat weak, I still love them and consider them as one of the most unique franchises of JRPGs. Especially with that all-time classic battle system that we all know and love. Number 3. Falcom. Falcom, officially known as Nihon Falcom, is yet another elder in the JRPG business, the fathers of action RPGs with their Dragon Slayer series. However, most people know them for their highly underrated Ys games and most notably, The Legend of Heroes. These pioneers in the role-playing industry started back in 1981 with a lot of really unknown games, most of them never released outside Japan. It'll be a while later before the world could meet the first Ys game in 1987, and 2 years later another Dragon Slayer title called The Legend of Heroes. Ever since then, they have been reinventing themselves with RPG after RPG, focusing more and more on these 2 series until they finally became full-fledged franchises with gigantic cult-following fan bases all around the world. They also made the Brandish games and the Xanadu series, by the way. From my point of view, Falcom is one of the most revolutionary developers in existence, a company much older than all of the greatest out there nowadays, and a big colonist in the RPG industry. Number 2. Squaresoft. Keep in mind that I'm talking about the legendary company that ruled the 90s with major hit after major hit, classic after classic, until they almost went bankrupt and fused with their enemies, Enix. To me, Square Enix is an entirely different company than what the masterful Squaresoft once was. The problem was that key people that literally gave the company its very well-deserved fame started living around the beginning of the 21st century. Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of the Final Fantasy series, left to create his own company. Tetsuya Takahashi, whom I already mentioned, did exactly the same. Masato Kato, author of Chrono Cross, also left and became a freelancer. But it was men like them who helped build the kingdom that Squaresoft ruled over, only to let it all to waste when they quit. Nevertheless, Square brought us some of the biggest all-time classic RPGs in the history of gaming. The best Final Fantasy titles ever made, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Xenogears, Parasite Eve, Vagrant Story, the Mana series, Super Mario RPG, and other underrated titles. To me, it will always be the best JRPG developer ever, but only during the 90s, because Squaresoft, however great it might have been, is now a thing from the past. Number 1. Atlus. Meet the new king of JRPGs. The company that has been publishing and developing game after game, franchise after franchise, over the past 32 years, founded several months earlier before Intelligent Systems. Everybody knows them mainly for creating one of the darkest and greatest RPG series ever, Shin Megami Tensei. 4 main titles in its wagon. Several different successful spin-offs, underrated classics, and some of the hardest JRPGs ever made. They also developed the nowadays overly popular series of Persona. These games have been highly successful in the market, giving them enough popularity even being a subsidiary of Sega since 2013. The future of this company may lie in some of their projects that are still in development, such as Shin Megami Tensei 5, but their past is already in a throne of gold. Atlus has delivered a huge variety of excellent titles, such as Cardia, strategy RPG for the PS1, or Radiant Historia, a newly cult classic for the DS and the 3DS, being also a publisher for many hidden gems, such as the Grow Lancer titles. They also developed the Etrian Odyssey games, another franchise of turn-based RPGs with a very strong fanbase. So Atlus is literally the replacement of what Squaresoft once was, and in my opinion, might just continue to be for several years if their excellent series keep on growing and succeeding. Okay guys, I have here with me what I consider to be the biggest honorable mention ever when it comes to JRPG developers. The people, the guys who created the Suikoden franchise, every single one of them. They all worked for what I consider to be nowadays the shittiest video game company ever, which I'm not going to mention, but I'm pretty sure you already know who I'm talking about. It's so unfortunate that these people work for such a horrible company, but hey, they left us with several different games from my favorite JRPG franchise ever. I didn't include them on the list because, like I said at the beginning, I was focusing on companies, but they at least deserve the biggest honorable mention in this video. Suikoden. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. Stay put for even more honorable mentions and see you next time.